Welcome to the State of CRM podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Ben.
And today we have a topic that is no doubt on the top of every B2C marketer's mind, and that is Black Friday. So as we know, Black Friday is the largest customer or consumer event in a lot of markets around the world, not every market, but a lot of different markets. And this year, things have shifted a little bit just in terms of the way consumers are consuming media, which impacts the way that you market, as well as consumer behavior when it comes to making purchases, which is no big news, I think. The last couple of years have been pretty seismic in terms of shifts in consumer behavior and the way they're consuming media. We're going to talk a little bit about that and then talk a little bit about some tactics and strategies marketers can use to get ahead of some of these changes. But before we get into Black Friday, one of our more popular topics actually in the past has been around the iOS 15 update and the changes that Apple has made in regards to being able to track things like email open rates. So I think we're kind of a few weeks into this now in terms of the release. So just wanted to maybe get a little bit of an update and see, is there been a significant impact? Are marketers kind of waiting and seeing, or what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely that was a big topic. That's still a big topic. The Apple privacy rule on mail. That was released, I think, the 17th or 20th of September. So we are more or less 20 days after the release of the iOS, of the new system. I just read, an article from Litmus, who has data to really actual data to follow the trends, and the article is just sharing. They are just sharing the fact that they see a slow adoption of the new iOS 15. Slow. That's adopted a little bit slower. That's slower adoption than what they expect and what we all expect. And the heads up today is just to say that, that just started. As a marketer, don't expect a big dent in your open rates or in any trend of your statistics. That won't happen. That's not a switch that will turn on half of your database immediately. The adoption of the new version of the system will take a long time. People are not updating their iOS, their system overnight, all at the same time. So you are not likely to see a big impact immediately. The impact will come, for sure. It's already started, but that will be on the long term. So I just want to avoid marketers that are listening to us right now to say that that was released. I don't see any impact. I'm good. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm not saying that you need to worry about it, but that's something that is not finished. That's just the beginning, and that will take months and months. That's a long play, and just keep that in mind. So far, the tests show that open rates for the parts of the people who activated or who updated iOS 15, there is an impact. To be sure, what is the size and magnitude of the impact, that's still too early to have conclusion. So just bear with us on the fact that will take times, and for sure we'll keep you updated as soon as we see analysis from different vendors or people who actually have data on that. We don't, so we don't have this detail. ESP are able to provide this type of analysis. So we'll keep our eyes open on that. And I know that we have also lots of discussion with clients on the impact on the strategy to apply. So we have a lot of things going on right now. We have client testing approaches, separating different audiences, and of that we'll share more in the future when we'll have something that is actually concrete, and that we know that we can really communicate on that and have learning and share these practices.
Yeah, and we don't have hard metrics yet, but we do know that the potential impact is obviously pretty significant. And as you mentioned, Ben, it's probably going to start increasing over time. We'll start seeing or start talking to clients that are seeing more and more significant impacts to their metrics. But obviously, the important thing is to make sure that you're taking this opportunity as a marketer to get ready for what is to come in the months ahead. And definitely invite you to take a listen to our episode focused on iOS 15, the potential impacts of it, and what marketers can do to be prepared for that.
Definitely. Before jumping into the Black Friday topic, exciting topic, if you like everything we share in our discussion, the podcast, the video, please give us a like, follow the page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave us a 5-star review on your platform, your podcast platform. That will help us to get the podcast exposed to more people, more marketers. So we really appreciate that. But let's jump into the topic. So Black Friday, that's ahead of us. That's coming soon. What's happening, Matt? So that's, why the landscape is different today.
Yeah, it's coming really soon, and I'm sure a lot of marketers have already been preparing for months for this event. But it isn't too late to start kind of thinking about what this year's strategy will look like and making some tactical changes, which is the focus of our discussion today. And I think I think it's important to kind of understand the landscape shifts, but a lot of people are already thinking about this, and none of this is news. So I want to make sure we're setting the stage a little bit, but not spending too much time on it. First and foremost, consumers have gone digital in the way that they're consuming media and the way that they are shopping. So obviously, since things have started to open up post-pandemic, we're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence, or fairly significant resurgence, in shopping in brick and mortar. However, it's fundamentally changed the way consumers shop, as well as consume media, which is important for how you reach them. And that basically just means that your strategy is essential, that it is digital first, in terms of how you're communicating, in terms of how you're activating. So that's just due to the fact that attention spans have been sort of divided now across devices. Everybody is mobile. Again, this is not news, but the pandemic exacerbated and accelerated these shifts. So even versus last year, things are a little bit different. I think apprehensions around COVID are down. Brick and mortar shopping is up, but however, that doesn't mean that digital is less important. If anything, it's just sort of changed the way consumers are shopping. Maybe they're going online before they're going in store. But anyway, you have to create relevant experiences online, which we'll talk a little bit about. Because of that, and because there's so much attention sort of being spread across channels, people are staring at their phones all the time, looking at email, looking at content, browsing websites, etc. Message fatigue is real, and it's definitely something that I think people or marketers need to be even more focused around, making sure that they have a pressure strategy to mitigate fatigue and make sure that it's not becoming something that's leading to reductions in unsubscribes and customer lifetime value over time. Year over year, we've seen shopping, or holiday shopping specifically, happen earlier. This year is no different. In fact, I think we're anticipating even more significant shifts in terms of when consumers are actually in market to buy gifts for family and loved ones. And I think there's a few reasons for that. One is, again, things have gone digital, so it's really easy for people to start shopping and thinking ahead without actually having to make a holiday shopping trip to the store. I think the supply chain concerns are real as well. That's something that obviously retailers are thinking a lot about, but I think consumers have heard enough in the news around the potential impacts of supply chain disruption as a result of the pandemic and sort of the reverberating effects of that. So that's also causing consumers to start thinking ahead to make sure that they're getting the things that they want, and that they're not going to suffer supply shortages around that later. And so as a result of that, I think Black Friday is sort of extended into the month of November. It used to sort of be like, bang, deals on that day. Everybody go shopping and kind of take advantage of that. Promotional periods are extending out earlier. Consumers are shopping earlier. So we're really sort of seeing like this Cyber November effect, where maybe there are specific promotions to Black Friday, but there's additional levels of promotion in November and even into October as well. So it's definitely time to start thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a new mix of behavior. I mean, it's a new landscape in this way. That's, behavior that we know from the past. That's the mix of behavior, action from user, or being multi-channel, omni-channel, everything that's already exists in the past, but the mix of the different components of it change and evolve. So that will be a really interesting period. But so that's led to one question. That's what marketers can do to capture consumer attention.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think first and foremost, and maybe it goes without saying, but I think it's just to simply start promoting earlier. If consumers' attention is focused around holiday shopping earlier than ever this year because of some of the reasons that we mentioned, the time is now to start thinking about getting your Black Friday and holiday campaigns out and in front of your customers as soon as possible. As consumers are more digitally focused, there's a huge opportunity to capture that attention, especially around some of these supply chain fears that I mentioned earlier. And sort of this demand window, if you think about it, there's obviously a window of demand for things that are specific to holiday shopping, not just for your overall promotions, but for specific products and things as well. So now is the time to start thinking about how do you capture the right signals that kind of indicate demand for the things that you're promoting, not just, again, from sort of a general awareness perspective, but being able to actually start pushing the offerings in market that consumers are hungry for this holiday season. You have a larger opportunity to do so, which means more data for you, because you're going to be able to start picking up on the signals that indicate what those holiday trends are going to be, what consumers want to buy this season earlier, which is actually going to help you earlier on because you're going to get ahead of the game. But potentially even more importantly, later on, as you start to learn from this information, you can really make sure you're capturing that demand as we move into November and closer to Black Friday.
Yeah, that's a good point where it's competition. Your competitors, don't wait for them to start their campaign. Starting a little bit earlier will just be an advantage you will take on the competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I'm not a big fan of mass communication. At least, that's the least we can say. But for this specific period in the year, and there are some specific events that can be applied to. But for this specific event in the year, this period of the year, the good mix of communication can be something like a mass communication, not to say a blast. But what you need to change or think about in terms of strategy, if you want to really apply and get the best of this period with your consumer and for your brand, is that mixing mass communication and targeted campaign. And usually I will really promote and push for more targeted and remove the blast. In this situation, there are different ways of doing it, but you can either make a big announcement, explaining, especially if you are starting earlier than usual, showing to everyone that you are starting already to promote this product and to be into this period, this sales period, holiday period event. And then the follow-up, the following days, the campaign during the week after that need to be targeted. You need to be focused on some product and identify the right audience that match the product and the offer you want to promote. And we all know that you want to promote everything because that's a period that's maybe 20-25% of your revenue. For some business, that's even more. And that's really a concentrated period for a lot of revenue. So you want to promote everything. But the best way to do that is to push the maximum of different product, niche products, really special products, colors, size. Whatever the niche you identify, that can be a niche product based on the price, high price point, different colors, different very I don't know, graphics for clothes, whatever, and identify the right audience and doing that for most of your catalog. That's more work again. We know that we mentioned that in previous episode. That's more work, but you can anticipate that right now. So building all this creative, all this communication in advance, identifying the people with propensity, with interest for this product, and being relevant with in the match, because that's a period that will drive more revenue. We say that's a big part of your business of the year, but you can do better. You can do more, especially the brands who will adopt this type of strategy will get ahead of the competition, because that's a period that's super crowded. That can be inbox on the phone, the mobile. You say that, but how many SMS will be sent and received to promote? Say, oh, that's Black Friday or Cyber Monday or November sales, whatever the name of the operation. That will be crowded on every channel. So being relevant, the people, the brand, the marketer that will contact people with relevant, consumer with relevant messages, will be ahead of the game, because that will be better than just receiving mass campaign every single day.
Yeah. And I think it like kind of leads or lends itself to the KPIs that you're looking to achieve as well.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if you're looking to just generate awareness, top funnel of you're having a Black Friday sale or that there's going to be promotions coming, like that's probably okay for a blast campaign. But even if you have specific products that are discounted, you can discount it all you want, but somebody's not going to buy a product that they're not interested in. And so if you're spamming your database over and over again and you have a lot of customers that are receiving offers for things that they don't want, even if they're discounted, you're hurting your chances that they're going to convert or pay attention when you're sending them something that they will convert for, which leads me to another recommendation, and that's just simply keeping an eye on your fatigue management. Making sure that you're managing pressure so that you're not burning out your customers. And that's why, to Ben's point around Blast, it's important to make sure you use that cautiously and sparingly when the objectives make sense for you to use that tactic. Otherwise, it's key to make sure that you're building audiences so that you're basically hitting them with relevant messaging. And fatigue essentially results from a couple things. One, it's just overloaded frequency, but two, receiving messages around things that you're not interested in. And those two things are going to drive your fatigue higher, which lead to unsubscribes and harm customer lifetime value. So it's important to make sure from a pressure standpoint that your messaging is relevant, and to Ben's point that it's targeted. And then in addition to that, making sure you're keeping an eye on all of your different channels. So taking an omni-channel approach to fatigue, which is making sure that you understand who's being reached on email, SMS, display, social, all of the different channels that you're using, so that you're keeping things relevant, but you're not spamming people no matter where they look. And again, because attention is so digital, it becomes a lot more challenging. But becomes easier to sort of slip into that pitfall where you probably or could be oversaturating somebody with messaging around something or sending them irrelevant messages, and you just aren't sure on which channel they're being exposed to. So keeping things relevant for them can kind of help with that. And then ultimately, you're lowering your unsubscribe rate, you're increasing conversions because things are relevant, and you're basically building that customer lifetime value. Over time.
And if you check the fatigue you're generating and you are working toward that goal and being sure that you are generating revenue but not impacting too much your database for the future too, there is a variation of the tactic I mentioned that you can apply that is, I think, way better. That you are still blasting in a way the general message. You are still sending the generic and global message, but you are not sending a batch and blast. Your goal is to reach 100% of your database more often than you usually do in the year. So what you can do is to set all these targeted campaigns we mentioned as a higher priority than the rest. Meaning that you will send maybe 2, 3, 4 targeted campaigns during a week, maybe 10, depending on the size of how wide is your catalog, the size of your database, all of that. But let's say you are sending 5 targeted campaign during the week. At the end of the week or during the week, depending on the tool you have to build that, you are able to know who will receive nothing because they have no interest for any of the offer you will be promoting. So these people, you can send them a catch-all, a filler campaign, a message that still promotes and say that you have this big operation and that's you have offers for Black Friday, but you will send that generic message only to people who were not interested in the rest and the targeted campaign. And this way you are still having 100% reach on your database, but you don't send too much generic campaign to people who actually have interest for targeted campaign specific offers and already received them. So you prioritize relevancy, efficiency on the audience topic, offer match. And for those who are not receiving anything or not matching the topic, you will send a catch-all filler campaign.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I think there's that group of individuals that you're not hitting each week with the targeted campaigns you mentioned, and I think that's really good advice for marketers. And I think a kind of somewhat related to that are probably segments that marketers have identified that are either lapsed or inactive, or in a lot of cases, we've heard some of our clients say, hey, like if they haven't purchased from us in the last 8 months or so, let them go. These are not an ideal customer. Is that the right approach, especially as it relates to Black Friday, or is there maybe a different way marketers should be thinking about that?
As you said, that's a period that you have sales. You have an additional incentive. So the sales, the discount you are highlighting, you need to see that as an incentive, something that will accelerate, increase the conversion rate. So therefore, you can maybe lose a little bit your rule of not contacting people who did not interact with the channel in the last 6 months or 8 months, whatever the rule you have, and push that to maybe 2 additional months or 2 or 3 additional months. Not going to contact everyone that is inactive for 3 years for sure, but instead of contacting only the super active, super hot, engaged customer with this channel, that's a period that you can expand a little bit because you have this extra incentive with the discount. But that won't be, there is no magic.
Yeah.
That's the main thing still is the match between the audience and the content. So the incentive is not compensating this relationship between the audience and the offer. That's just accelerating again. That's accelerating, increasing the conversion rates. So making the most for you in terms of business for this period. And because you have this incentive, you will be maybe able to reactivate and to re-engage with customers that were less active in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've talked a bit about extending your promotional window, using batch and blast strategically, but using more targeted campaigns, keeping an eye on pressure and fatigue, and re-engaging customers. I think the natural next question in there is marketers are like, okay, that's great advice. We'd love to do that. How can they do that?
That's what we say, what we do with our clients every single day. That's what we share on the podcast often, that you need to have support. That can be your data science team. And if you have to put requests a long time ahead of the campaign itself, start right now to being sure that they are ready to help you. The team that is helping you to create audiences, that's the best way to do it, is just use there is, modern technology and platform like we have, but there are other ways to do it, and there are other platforms that can help in a different way, because Tiny Clues is quite unique for that, but still being relevant and being helped by AI gets the best use of the data you are collecting on your customer. That's the way to do it. The old segmentation way of saying that, I'm contacting my super VIP or people who spend more than X in the last 6 months. That's not, that won't bring anything for this type of period. That's not helping during the year, actually. For this type of period, that's not really helping at all.
Yeah. And I think we said this before, but marketers already have what they need from a data perspective to be able to achieve that. Like there is magic in your first party data that you are probably not tapping into. You do not need to acquire new data sets to be able to do this. Even if there's gaps in your first party data, there is stuff, I guarantee you have data sets that you can use to inform this. And this is why we always talk about kind of like looking at the signals beyond explicit, because you may not have a lot of explicit buying signals yet for the things that you're promoting on Black Friday. Maybe you do, and that's great. You already have a lot to learn from, but like looking at your data holistically, your consumers are already telling you things that can signal what they want to buy this holiday season. And with the promotional window expanding even further beyond what it has in the past, you're already getting that data in so that you're set up to be able to execute those targeted campaigns this season, probably more than ever before, because the promotional window started earlier. So within your first party data, there's already gold there in terms of what that AI capability can learn from and be able to predict that intent for the offers that you're looking to push this season and finding those audiences that you should be marketing to.
Yeah. So many times we have we have the conversation with client prospect that are sharing the fact that they don't have the data organized, or they are not yet there because they are not collecting the navigation, the browsing data, and linking that to a user. That's not a big deal. That's just one type of data points. There are so many others, and you are already sitting on a mountain of them. The socio-demographic data of your consumer, their historical of transaction, what's the events with the channel you are using, if they clicked, convert after a click, they were exposed to a Facebook ad. All of that's data points that can be leveraged if you are able to put that together. And to put that together, the AI is able to do that, even if it's not organized on your side. Mm-hmm. You don't need to have everything really perfectly organized to leverage the data. Because if you wait to have everything organized properly, you will never take any action, because that won't happen. It's not happening. There are more and more data everywhere. You will be always missing something, or feeling that you're missing, I'm not capturing this type of data. Let's wait for this new inputs to really start to leverage everything. Now, start with what you have today, and you'll add up more in the future. But that's better to start right now. We mentioned the fact that don't consider the incentive, the conversion, the discounts as really the purpose of the content of the offer. The offer is the product. The content of the message is the offer, the product you want to promote, and the discount is an extra incentive to have a better conversion rate. If you really think that, I've just communicated and the purpose of my message is saying that I have a 20% or 30%, 40% discount, on what? All the websites, fine. Even if you have 40% across all your website or your stores, you need to talk to your consumers, say that we have this category, we have this type of product, we have this product you might be interested in. Mention the product, push the offer, and the discount is just an extra incentive, and that's not the purpose of your communication. That's something really important to have in mind, because nobody's looking for 40% of discounts. People are looking for 40% of discount on specific product. Maybe that's not what they had in mind, but by showing the product with a discount, that will help to convert thanks to the incentive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lowering the price is going to increase demand. That's basic economics. But again, like if somebody isn't in market at all for a product, they're not going to spend money on something that they are unable or unwilling to buy. And
yeah, and don't believe that the consumer know exactly what's the product you are selling. Oh, they know my brand. They know exactly what. No, you know exactly your product. Consumer, they have a vague idea of the type of product you have, but they don't know your catalog by heart. That's just keep explaining what you are selling and why they should buy with you.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to not rely on some of those explicit signals, because like the signals outside of I put this in my shopping cart or I browse this specific product website can actually help you identify areas of unidentified intent, people who may not even realize that they are willing to buy something or in the market for something until they actually see it. So I think that's a really interesting point as well.
And the last one that you were explaining, Matt, is that you need to manage the fatigue, to be careful with the fatigue. So when you have these different audiences for the different topics, pay attention to the overlap between the audiences and being sure that you will send the best offer. I mean, the offer that's has the highest propensity to convert or best interest for the user, even if this consumer has interest for multiple offers. Maximize that by managing the overlap between your audiences, and you'll switch that in the coming days or next week. But you need to really pay attention to not send too much message per user and to not generate a really high fatigue feeling. I mean, that generate a feeling of fatigue that will lead to unsubscribe or not converting with your store. Because, that's a period that's a lot of business is generated during the months, and for a lot of players, if you fatigue the consumer with your messages, that doesn't mean they will just stop and looking for product or abort their project, or they won't be anymore in market for buying the product. They will, but they will buy from someone else. So if you are sending the right message and keeping this relationship and keeping the relationship you build over time with them, with your consumer, keep that in mind, and that will be fine. That's the way you will maximize your return and your performances during this period.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a lot of hopefully useful information for you guys today. We would love to hear if you decide to employ any of these tactics or these strategies into this year's Black Friday strategy, or potentially something you're considering for future years. Or if you're already doing some of these things, we'd love to hear how that's going, how you've employed them. Is there any advice you can give to your fellow CRM marketers? Lots of opportunity for you guys to comment, shoot us a note. We take feedback and comments and things into consideration for future content. So we'd love to hear from you in terms of what's working, what's not, what resonates, what doesn't. So definitely keep it coming in.
Yeah, that's a great source of ideas.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.